Hello, Gareth Southgate. It's lovely to meet you.
Thank
really
you.
Good. I wonder what the answer to that is. I mean, 22 not out. That's dizzy heights.
Well, one of the privileges of my life, that Aggers, because I got to actually bat with my son for a few balls.
Oh, that's
and I think
nice.
For any father that plays cricket, that's a very special moment. So,
that is lovely. Yeah. I'm just going to take you to task, though. Look at the efforts I've gone to welcome you. I was walking through Leeds yesterday. I thought, that chap Gareth Southgate, he's the bloke with the waistcoats. And there, in the window of an old shop in town, they had a sort of a rack of waistcoats in a sale. I'll be honest, I haven't gone overboard for you. This is 30 quid's worth, right? But at least where's yours? I thought, come on.
Well, I've lived in Yorkshire for 20 years, and although I'm not born and bred, I know if I'd rocked up at Headingley in a waistcoat today, I'd have got plenty of stick walking in. So
actually, I'll be honest with you, I got a bit, and I walked out. But would this fit the mould? I mean, would this be a Southgate?
Very good. I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
Very impressed.
30 quid. All right, good. Now, how have you enjoyed this morning? Because you've been sitting out on a balcony down there. You're getting the atmosphere.
Oh, it's been brilliant. I mean, I've been virtually behind the bowler's arm, so to see England bowl and I was going to say field, to see them bowl as well as they have. Yeah. And of course, we knew today was going to have an edge with what happened at Lord's. So a brilliant day to be here. Yeah.
Are you sensing that edge? I mean, it can be quite lively here anyway, to be honest, can't it?
Yeah.
Do you feel there is a bit of an undercurrent?
Well, I think so. But as you say, the West Terrace is hard to tell any difference from normal, really. So you wouldn't expect as an Aussie to come here and be welcomed with open arms. But no, I mean, it's a brilliant morning's play for England.
Yeah. And when you see Mark Wood bowling like that, and I mean, in any fast bowler to see 92, 93 miles an hour and stumps being ripped out the ground, I mean, that's kind of it's what Test cricket is.
I think I know there's always this debate about Test cricket and where it sits now, but I mean, I grew up, sitting watching. I've just been talking. Well, Jeff's just been telling me downstairs who I should be picking, and that as usual.
No. But, he's not down there, is he?
But
Boycott, is he down there?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But
we tried to put him off. He'd be subjected to Jeffrey.
But I'd say it was more subjected when I was watching him when I was a kid. But there we go. But
that's very true.
If I contrast that, watching him and Chris Tavare open to what we see now in terms of the speed of scoring, I mean, the game is just projected forward, isn't it?
Yeah, it has. He does like his football, though.
He does. I'm tongue-in-cheek. He's been very supportive, I have to say. But
yeah. So you can remember those days, can you, of Jeffrey playing and so on?
No, absolutely.
Do you go back to that?
Yeah. No, I mean, when I was growing up, it would have been Bob Willis and Botham and Mike Brealey's team, and then that great West Indies team, Greenwich, Haynes and Clive Lloyd, Viv Richards. So I used to love watching Test cricket all summer, and then listening to yourselves driving down to the West Country on holiday and having the radio on in the car all the way down. So they're great memories, really.
Radio does it somehow, don't you think? I mean, TV, obviously, what you do, you're on a lot, but I don't know, TV is sort of on a wall these days mainly, and it sort of talks to you. But radio, somehow, it's so communicative, I think.
Without a doubt. And I know, even with our own sport, as a kid, used to listen to matches in midweek on the radio because football wasn't on live as it is now.
No.
And of course, that description that was so vivid in your mind as a kid, and you're trying to picture. So it's it's essential part of people's lives.
So take us back to this big game then for your 22 for Panel Ash. I mean, because I read somewhere actually that you're no mug at cricket. I mean, for all Mickey taking aside, I mean, you played a bit to a good standard.
Not particularly. I mean, I wouldn't have been at the level that the Nevilles were, for example.
Right.
They were. I think Phil especially could have gone either way, couldn't he?
With
football or cricket. So I know my place. Right. But I could do a bit of everything, but not to an outstanding level.
No, but what? Batting, bowling, what?
Yeah, probably more of a bowler.
Right.
But I think when I was a kid, I was at school in Sussex, so now living in Yorkshire, the difference between the amount of cricket that's played up here and the number of junior clubs and how much it's played at school, it's no wonder that the county is so strong, because you're just surrounded by it.
Yeah, and this team, looking it up again, so the Nidderdale League.
Yep.
I mean, just describe a typical sort of Saturday or Sunday. Was Saturday or Sunday you're playing, or this weekend?
Well, that would have been my only appearance, really. Whether that says how well I played or whether that was just my availability,
well, it was the second.
Not sure.
But it just sounds lovely. I mean, the Panel Ash against Spofforth, seconds. I mean, is it just a lovely little sort of village grassy?
No, that's exactly it.
That's
exactly it. And I mean, Beckwithshire is our local club, which was where we used to try and help out as well. So we used to run the tees there on a Saturday morning for a period when I was out of the game. So I've loved being involved in. It's nice to volunteer at times and just help sport generally, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as a cricket fan, I've loved watching my son play a bit, and to get a better feel of the game.
Yeah. Does it? I mean, I don't. Does he play football, Flynn, as well, or is it a complete sort of sports change for him? So there's not the pressure of dad, which
well, exactly.
A lot.
Well, also I coached him, so that put him off football for life.
Right.
But no, I mean, he's always preferred cricket, and I think it does help as well. Yes. Although I don't think you let too many people know who your dad is when you're just going into bat, because obviously now the ball would be flying around his head a bit more.
Yeah. But you do see it, don't you? I mean, I'm thinking of in Botham family, for instance, and others who have to try and follow in the footsteps of a famous sporting father or mother, and it's tough. It's hard.
Yeah. No, I think for those kids who have followed their parents into sport, I think that is hard. I mean, you can pass on some great lessons, but of course to try and find your own path is really important in life. And I'm happy my two are going to go in a different direction and make their own way. It's good for them.
When I was playing, Gareth, I played with Chris Balderston, and there was Phil Neal, and there were others who, of course, were able to combine cricket with football, and that just seemed like a sort of a dream, really. I think Chris Balderston, I'll get the teams wrong, but he played for Leicestershire at Chesterfield in a very important game against Derbyshire towards the end of the season, and then he went up and he played for Doncaster or something like that. I think Doncaster Rovers. I mean, that same day. It's like sort of Roy of the Rovers stuff, isn't it? I mean, what a chance. I mean, that's just impossible these days, I guess. Yeah,
I think so. I think both sports are so professional, and both sports are almost 12 months of the year, aren't they? So it's I don't think it would work. I mean, when I was a kid, Ian Botham was playing at Scunthorpe, and I think Steve Ogrizovic had some games, didn't he?
He did,
county level.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it would be wonderful if that was still possible, but I think it's. I think we've gone past that time.
Yeah, it's such a shame. What if you had to put your finger on sort of the sort of cricketing moment that the spark was lit for you? I'm trying to work out your age, but Headingley, 81, the Botham Test match. I don't know. I mean, you remember those sorts of things?
Definitely, and the World Cup final at Lord's, West Indies.
Oh yes, of course. Or beating and the India game or England.
Yeah, against England, I think. So. Yeah, I mean, but I used to watch every summer, and I loved it. And I've been fortunate over the years when I was playing to get to know a few of the players. So I've known Alex Stewart for years, who's become a very close friend. And now we've linked in quite a bit with the guys. In the last few months, I've spoken quite a bit with Rob Key to find out what they're doing.
Yes.
When Andrew Strauss was running things, we linked quite a lot with England football and England cricket. So we tried to share ideas on coaching and player development and pathways, those sorts of things. So there's a strong link.
And what do you make of what's happened with English cricket? I mean, I was there in the West Indies a year or so ago, in Grenada, and the whole sort of thing blew up, really. What have you made of the last year? This sort of complete revolution, really, in mindset, and obviously the way they've got out and played. Have you been watching that?
No, without a doubt, because I mean, the first thing was that people were telling us we should be doing the same. So,
is it possible?
That happens quite a lot to me, really. But
can you in football take on what they've tried to do with it?
Well, I think there is I think we have looked at what their approach to things has been. I've certainly looked back at the mindset shift, because when we took over our team 6-7 years ago, there was a lot of fear.
Yes.
And we've tried to reduce that fear, and now we've got a team that have far more belief going into games, but recognising the individual strengths and trying to get people to play to what they're most comfortable with. I mean, it would strike me that this England team, with players like Harry Brook coming in, you don't want to restrict talent like that. People are always going to criticise a shot if he gets out.
Yes.
But when you see them play as well as they do and can, and when you see an innings like Ben Stokes' last weekend, then it's drawing in a new generation of fans and the excitement that it's bringing. And quite possibly we could have lost those games playing with a different approach anyway. Yes. So,
do you think it's a mindset thing? Just a complete change of approach and attitude, and really sort of, I think in cricket, heaping the pressure back onto the opposition. It seems to be, and that would work for you, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think you try to find comparables, and of course these things you've got to assess over a longer period of time, because with any team you can have some short-term wins, and I think that's built confidence in this Test team. And then, for me, it's been fascinating how quickly the criticism has turned after these last two games. So in the end, results define people's reactions. But then you've got to perhaps adjust a little bit to what your thinking is. You're learning all the time as a coach or as a captain, and I don't think it's as straightforward as complete freedom. There's got to be some flexibility in how you play in any sport.
Yes.
But I think the initial shift to try and reduce the fear and change people's mindsets was really important, and I'm sure now they'll review what they're doing and they'll tweak it, and they'll learn together as a team.
Yeah. You've probably worked out by now I know nothing about football. Unfortunately, I've never played it. I wish I had at school. I wish I'd got into it. We just didn't play it. But going back to when you took over, do you think the Iceland game was kind of England's Grenada moment of a year ago? And it really did need some pretty drastic work. Not just with the players, but also the people the fans, the people who support the game. It just seemed, I remember a lot of angry headlines and the usual stuff when England lose in football about the players not caring and all of that. So when you did take over after Sam Allardyce, that brief period, what was in your mind about how to try and get rid of that baggage, get rid of that sort of feeling of hostility from people and the media too, and try and engage with the players in a more positive way and vice versa? Was that part of your agenda then?
It was, and there were a lot of people involved within the FA. When you're trying to influence change, you've got to keep winning matches as a football manager especially. So we still needed to qualify for a World Cup, but as we were going through that process, what we were trying to do was be a bit more open. We recognised our relationship with the fans is generally created through the media. Speaking with you guys is our opportunity to talk to our fans. So that had become fractious, and that had become not particularly enjoyable for anybody on either side of the microphone, really. And we just tried to explain to our players that you can actually get more of your own messages out. You can control the message, not control the message, but let people see how much you care and the actual characters that we have in the team, because I don't think the players were showing the best side of themselves. And now people talk to me a lot about how good this young team are and how they like them. But I don't think that our guys are particularly different to the last generation. They've probably just been a little bit more open in how they are. Social media, of course, allows that as well. They can publish their own Instagram stories and they can connect with the fans in a different way. But then ultimately you've got to win football matches because none of that matters if you're not winning. So we've had to combine all of those things. But the biggest pleasure for me is that when I go to places like today, people have enjoyed watching the team and they feel a strong connection, because with the national team, that's everything. Yeah. Do you think back then when you started that the players actually enjoyed playing for England? And that's different to wanting to play for England. Yeah. But do you think they actually enjoyed it because of the microscope and the pressure and
And when it does all kick off, when they lose games like that, I mean, is that a fair question? Do you think?
It is. I think there was a fear of failing.
Yes.
And therefore you stop thinking about what might be possible, because in our world, perhaps people didn't want to be the guy that made the error that knocked us out of a tournament. And of course, I was in a good position to deal with that because I had been that guy.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
Well, I thought we might as well get there. So I could stand there and genuinely say to the fellas, look, life goes on.
Yes.
Whatever mistakes. If you're going to be in sport, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to lose games. But we've got to think about how good we might be. And rather than going out there trying not to make mistakes, if that's the mindset, you will make errors. And this goes back to this freedom of expression, if you like. So,
which you have to trust. You've got to trust your selectors. You've got to trust your boss, haven't you, to go out and play like that? Because certainly in cricket, you make a mistake. You make, like England batting in the first innings at Lord's. You play those. You do have to have faith in the people who's delivering that message, that actually they're not going to just chop you off.
No, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Well, that's building trust with your players, and it's not what you say, it's your actions ultimately that decide whether the dressing room believe that messaging or not. So if I'm stood next to the dugout and players are making mistakes and I'm jumping up and down like John Cleese, then they're gonna get the feeling that this guy isn't as genuine as he said. So I think what impresses me with Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum, their body language doesn't change. When those moments of pressure come or the errors are coming, they're maintaining that level visually, that level approach. I'm sure there's a lot more going on in their head. And I think the rest of the team will feed off of that.
The TMS Podcast
on BBC Sounds.
Call Jonathan Pye. I want something better than that. No.
What's wrong with Call Jonathan Pye?
It's really boring.
OK, so let's all do a brain fart. Actually, what about that? Jonathan Pye's brain fart. It's hilarious.
Jonathan Pye, off my chest.
Off my chest?
Chewing the fat, chewing the pie.
Chewing the cud.
Cud? The title for my new phone-in show is Jonathan Pye Chews His Own Sit.
I'm just spitballing. Let's just spitball.
Jonathan Pye spits balls.
Should we just stick with Call Jonathan Pye?
Yes.
Call Jonathan Pye. Listen first on BBC Sounds.
Well, you mentioned it. I mean, I wasn't going to mention Euro '96, Gareth, but I mean that experience, though. You've probably talked about it loads of times, but I mean, did that change you? How did you cope with it? Because of the expectation and because of the pressure, and also, I mean, how does it help you deal with the players now? I guess some of them couldn't even remember that, could they?
No.
So it's kind of irrelevant to their lives, but very relevant to you and the way you deal with them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really hits home when the birth date of some of your players is 2003. So that's and the last thing players really want to hear is what life was like when you were playing.
It was always better then.
But well, exactly. But I think you can empathise with players, and you can put yourself in their situation. I think what it taught me, and it took me a long time. We didn't have the support networks now. Sports psychology was just starting.
I mean, would that have helped?
Well, I think it would, but in the end, you've got to find your own way through these things in life, and setbacks are going to happen. I've been fortunate in my life that mine have been in a professional capacity, and so I've learned a huge amount. They've been really public. They've been hard to cope with. But once you've been through those, extreme lows, then you start to build resilience, and you feel that, okay, if I can cope with that, then I can deal with anything really. And so I think hopefully that's allowed me to give the team more freedom to have that same mindset and not try and be the best version of themselves. That's what every coach is aspiring to do.
It shows what sport means to people, though, doesn't it? I mean, you miss a penalty, you drop a catch, you're Johnny Bairstow, you drop a catch. It's all in a day's work in a way, isn't it? And yet the magnitude of that event is just colossal, especially in that case.
Well, it is when you're playing at professional level, and you're taking people out of their daily life, and you're exciting them, taking them on a journey with you as a team. You're lifting their fears and their worries about general life, and we are part entertainment industry, so you have to accept that passion then comes into that. Passion is part of sport, and the disappointment is hard for people to contextualise, and that's where the dressing room is so important, that they maintain a certain level, because you can't be as emotionally high or low as the crowd get.
Sure.
And therefore in those difficult moments, certainly as a coach now, I've got to make sure that the players stay on track and they keep belief in what we're doing, and they're not overly negatively affected by a defeat or a bad performance, because in sport you're going to lose games, as we said earlier. So now, of course, everybody else that's analysing it and critiquing it has got to have a stronger view, and will give a stronger view. But within the dressing room, you have to protect the players from that and guide them through those times.
Just the last one. There's conversation about being entertaining losers, and that's a real balance, isn't it? The matches that England have lost have been entertaining, but they've lost.
Yeah.
And so, is that a kind of a line that you think about? I mean, do you try and be an entertaining football team? But obviously you want to win. I mean, it's a juggling act.
It is. Well, I would say our World Cup last winter was an example of that. I think people liked the way we played. I think they felt that we a game, quarter-final against France, that we should have won. So to a certain level, the public were happy that the team had given a good version of themselves. But ultimately, from our perspective, we were scratching our heads a bit, because we felt the reception coming home on the back of a quarter-final defeat was warmer than it probably should have been, or might have been. So I think what it does say is that, especially with the national team, it does matter to people how you play and how you go about your job, and the responsibility of representing your country and how you conduct yourselves. I think that is all wrapped up in playing international sport. But, of course, ultimately, as a team and as a fan base, you want to win as well. So the sweet spot is to do both. If you can play
both off.
If you play well and lose, there'll be a bit of leeway. If you play poorly and lose, then forget it.
Absolutely.
You've got no chance.
No. It's interesting what you're saying about conversations with Rob Key and so on about the two positions and the two sports and how you can rub things off, and yet, in a way, the structures are so completely different, aren't they? Because England's cricketers are all wrapped up on central contracts. Rob Key, Brendan McCullum, they've got them exactly where they want them under contract. They can do what they like. It feels, just looking in as a total outsider again, utterly different to you in that it's the club that controls it, and you get a handful of games a year, building up to a massive tournament the following year. I mean, is that quite frustrating?
Well, they are the constraints of international football, so we have to find the best way of working within those constraints. And ahead of the World Cup in Qatar, we only had the players for 5 days. Normally you'd have perhaps 3 weeks. I know England Rugby will have their guys for 5 or 6 weeks before their World Cup. So you have to really focus on what are the most important things. You can't cover everything you'd like to cover. You can't give the level of detail that you'd like to give, because otherwise the players will be swamped with too much information. And you are a lot more reliant on the clubs for the physical preparation of the players and for the psychological condition they come in, because if they're having a bad time with their club, you've got to try and address that in a very short space of time and get them into a better place to play for you. So there is more outside of your control, without a doubt.
Yeah, and tactically, you've got someone who's playing for a club and has been all summer, and suddenly he's playing for you, and you've got different ideas, and he's got someone different to playing alongside him or passing to or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, that must be, and you've only got a few days to do that.
And that's where some stability for us is important. If I looked at our two, we're in Yorkshire, our two centre backs have been from Yorkshire, Barnsley and Sheffield, Maguire and Stones. They would have played probably 40 matches for England together. So that knowledge of what the other guy's going to do, what his preferences are, those things definitely help. So if you've got a group of 3 or 4 from one club, that definitely helps your cohesion as a team.
Yes.
But equally, we've also got to bear in mind in that short period of time, we can't ask players to do something that's wildly different from what they do at their club. And we're fortunate that most of the top teams now play a similar style of football. They all press aggressively when they lose the ball. So there are some common threads that can connect you very quickly.
Yeah.
But we will be slightly different to all those other teams, and we have to get those messages across really clearly.
And are most Premier League managers happy to see you? Because you're not going to take that player away.
Yeah.
To sort of, I don't know, hide under a big hat or something when you turn up, just in case. I mean, do they welcome you? Do they welcome their players being picked for England?
Well, we have a Spanish manager of Manchester City, a German manager of Liverpool, Argentinian manager of Chelsea now. So
you can see what the problem is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I have to say, look, the big managers understand that they're going to lose their players to international football. So the big clubs, that's part of their landscape as well. Of course, every club manager would prefer not to release their players because you don't want players coming back injured and or having had a difficult experience. But they understand it, and I have to say our relationships are as good as I think they can be. There's always going to be some friction because their objectives are different to ours, but we try to communicate through all of those things as well as we can, and I think there's a sort of mutual appreciation, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I mean, cricket people like me listening, and that argument seems really weird.
No,
I mean, everything's about playing for England.
Yeah.
Was it for you when you started out in football? You had, England football teams on your wall and bedroom wall and stuff. It certainly was for me with cricket. The county cricket was great, of course, and you couldn't play for England without it. But the driving ambition was always to play for England.
Yeah, my only ambition as a boy was to play for England, nothing else. And
I think that's the same now with younger players?
I think it is, yeah. So I see our under-15s who get the call up for England, and they arrive at our training centre in Burton, and the parents might drop them off, and they drive back down the driveway incredibly proud, and the boys get their first shirt and their first cap. And
brilliant. And
then I see what it means to our senior players when we've taken on what you guys do with presenting that first cap and making something more special, and it's everything. The life stories of these boys to get one international cap are incredible. What they've overcome, and the chances of getting to that level are so small. So
competition.
It is.
You read these stories, don't you, of Saturday morning club football, and mum and dad are down there and they lose it with the ref, and the pressure, the expectation on some of these youngsters, that pressure put on by their parents must be overbearing, I would think, and in many cases.
Well, I think it's something that we have to be conscious of because for most kids that play football at the weekend, it's just about getting out and playing and having fun. So grassroots football is really important, but it's important for health, it's important for community, it's important for kids to learn. I think the debate about spirit of cricket, there's a broader debate about what sport brings to our lives at a recreational and grassroots level that's hugely important for society. And then we have the professional strand of that where, now you're thinking about a career, but there's definitely more expectation and pressure on our boys now, because when I started, you hoped you could afford a new car, you hoped you might be able to get a mortgage on your house. Now the money for the family is life-changing.
Yes.
And you see families put enormous pressure on these kids at a really young age, and it's not healthy.
No. Go on then, spirit of cricket, spirit of football. Where's your line on all of that? You, as Gareth Southgate, an England manager, kind of sets the tone. I watch football from a totally ignorant point of view, and I see footballers going down, looking at being shot in the leg, and next minute they're running around. Is there still spirit of the game in football?
Well, I guess the advantage we have is we're pretty clear there isn't.
There isn't.
Well, I think
do the players kind of have an unwritten code of some sort?
Yeah, I think there still is. So. I have never ever encouraged the player to dive or to simulate to buy a foul. It's just not. I'm not comfortable with that. Have we had penalties given that were soft? I would say we probably have, but I think the interesting thing with cricket and how it's viewed is there almost seems as though there's an expectation of another level. I think it's held as a sport that should set a different sort of example.
I'm not quite sure why.
Well, no, but
just tradition.
Yeah, I think it is tradition.
Yeah.
I think within football, I recognise whenever an England team goes out, we're still representing everybody. Everything I say is scrutinised. I'm an ambassador for the country when I speak, so I've got to have, I've got to respect that position I'm in, and therefore there is an expectation of how the players behave when they're with us and how they play. Our game is more fluid, and fouls are going to be given, and so there's always this balance in any sport of what's sportsmanship, what's trying to find an edge, and what are the limits within that. And I found the debate fascinating because.
How did you feel about it on the other day, with your cricket hat on, as it were?
Well, when I watched it live, and they started appealing, I thought, oh, right. Well, I'd assumed that he'd put his foot back in the crease, but what was interesting to me was that every ex-player I heard interviewed was saying, no, it's naive, he's out. So, I think sometimes the crowd have a perception of something that's very different to the way the players and the coaches see it. And but that all feeds into then, what happened afterwards and what's the reaction to it. And, the one thing that was clear was that the reaction in the long room, that's not what I would expect as an Englishman of people, in a privileged position to go and watch. So, I thought the whole thing was a fascinating debate.
Shows people care. The Ashes gets people going.
No, without it. Well, I played with a lot of Aussies at club level. So, 2005, I was at Middlesbrough with Viduka and Schwarzer, and every day's play was debated, and the messages were flying as the things were going on. So. I'm desperately hoping we can pull this series back.
And next year's obviously a big one for you. What's that like with the pressure on? I'll be popping off down to my supermarket and I'll get my flag and I'll put it on my car window like everybody else and wave it, because everyone gets behind those big football events, don't they? But then after a few weeks they come down again, or a few rounds, pack them away to next time. What is the actual pressure like when you have these players for such a short time, and you're going off to some remote part of Europe, and you sort of gather together only for a few days, and the whole country is just waiting for good results. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think I'm 52 now, so I've lived through a lot of different things, and I view it as an opportunity rather than a pressure. We've tried to say to our players, this is our chapter, if you like. If an Ashes series are 5 books on your shelf and there's all these chapters within that and the continuing storyline, the last 3 haven't been written yet. No, and that's what it is for us. We have the opportunity to write those chapters and to create memories that will live with people forever. And to a degree we've done that, not to ultimately where we want to be, but we have done that. And so my mindset as I've got older has been, well, let's embrace that challenge, let's go for that, and let's try and be the best that we can be, rather than fearing what if it goes wrong. Because frankly, if things go wrong, I'll have lived through more difficult times anyway. So
I guess it comes back to trying to enjoy it again, does it? And actually revel in that support from back home, the expectation.
Yeah, without a doubt. Because why did we all start playing sport? We loved it. If I look at what the players are trying to do here, they're trying to take them back to when they first picked a cricket bat up, and there weren't too many things going on in their head, and they just played. And I think that's what you're seeking as a coach all the time. Now, around that there's this noise and this drama, but in the end, it's still 22 yards, or it's the same goalposts for us. And you're constantly trying to connect back to that joy of playing, because I think that's where you'll get the best out of the players.
And in the meantime, last footballing one, Gareth, I promise you, with Harry Kane possibly moving to Bayern Munich, I think. But what does that mean, that there's even less control for you of England's captain? How would that work out for you if you went there?
No, I think with the players we've had abroad, we had Jude Bellingham in in Dortmund, and we had a very good relationship with Borussia Dortmund when Jude was there, for example. So we're such a small world now. We can fly and see them. We can go to the training grounds. We know the coaches abroad. Our medical teams connect. So these are top clubs, and it's easy to have as good a connection with Real Madrid, where Bellingham is now, compared to one of our big clubs, really.
This one here, Matt Gallagher. I went to the National Theatre to see a fantastic play called Dear England, which centres on the progress of England under Gareth Southgate. Have you seen this?
No, I've not been. I would find it very difficult to go and watch myself on stage.
Well, I don't know. I don't know who plays you in that. We haven't been. Anyway, that's brilliant. It's been lovely talking to you. Thanks for coming. It's brilliant to get some insight into our other love. We're obviously cricket people in here, but lots of footballers too. So thanks for that. What are you hoping to see this afternoon, apart from Geoffrey Boycott?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be on. It's taken me back to my childhood.